Myers recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank both Secretary Panetta and Pompeo for your fine service to our country. We certainly appreciate it. Secretary Pompeo, in your written testimony today, you talk about a couple different things that deal with the difficulties that the Chinese economy is having right now. Demographically, they're struggling. You talk about their stock market as a disaster. They're stealing money out of state-owned offshore accounts. But he says, make no mistake, a weakened China is an ever-growing danger to the United States and the world. So are you saying there, or do you just elaborate a little bit on this, that the weaker their economy is, the more volatile their government could be and the more danger they are to the rest of the world?
It's good to see you again.
Yes, great to see you too, sir.
It's not a direct line, that it is not a one-for-one. As they weaken, they present more risk. I think they present real risk no matter whether their economy is thriving in any given year or not. It is the case that the decision-making apparatus, and Secretary Panetta spoke to this, as there is more turmoil, as their economy struggles more, as they see the demographic handwriting on the wall, that the decision-making process inside of the Chinese Communist Party's leadership becomes more fractured. And as Xi Jinping sees the end of his time in leadership approaching as each day goes on, he is more likely to try and achieve the end game that he has described. He has been unambiguous about his objectives, that he is determined to do it during his time. And so I do think that as these challenges present themselves, there is always a risk that Xi Jinping will see the clock has run, and if America is not prepared to deter him, he'll be more likely to take action that is adverse to U.S. economic and U.S. military interests in the region.
Thank you. Secretary Panetta, you talked a while ago about dealing from strength. I'm assuming it also means economic strength because, as Secretary Pompeo indicated here, you know, even if they're weakened, they're still dangerous. And in some of the testimony we've had before from some of our witnesses who have been refugees from China, they talk about the fact that they spend about $300 billion a year to surveil, detain, and build new detention camps on their own people. And in doing that, they have a tremendous fear of their own people, the government does, of their own people. So therefore, if you stress them, if you stress their economy, there are some difficulties. And we ourselves, to be able to offset that, have to have a strong economy. Would you agree with that? Would you like to speak to that, elaborate a little bit more?
Look, I think there's the whole thrust of our efforts with China is deterrence. And that deterrence has to be both military and economic. And I think the reality is that right now, because China has a very unpredictable economy, you just read today where their real estate industry is being challenged. They're in trouble because of loans that were issued, and the real estate area is a huge investment area for China. So they're going to suffer another hit as a result of that. And add to that the other unpredictability of the Chinese economy right now and the low growth that's taking place. I think what that's doing in some ways is it's drawing Xi's attention to what he was primarily concerned about, which was developing China as an economic power for the future. So in some ways, their problems represent good news for the United States.
Thank you. Secretary Pompeo, we're decoupling ourselves from China, and all the trade that we have has always been discussed on this committee. Should we do it at all? Should we do some? Should we do none? How should we approach that? And so I think we've had discussions. I sit on the Financial Services Committee along with Mr. Barr, and I chair the Subcommittee on National Security and International Finance. And so the trade and international financing of all these things all fits in together here. And so decoupling, I've only got about a half a minute left here, decoupling ourselves from China. What would your opinion be on doing that? To do it halfway, not at all? What would you suggest?
So difficult to do in 15 seconds, but let me give it a run.
You're
First,
good,
we should never for a moment think that we're going to get the decision on this, It could be the Chinese Communist Party makes decisions about the extent of that decoupling as well. That is, Xi Jinping gets a role in deciding how much trade there will be and on what terms. The most important thing we can do is make sure to protect the high-end dual-use materials. This should be the place we should focus intensely in the near term, and we should shut not just part of it down, but all of it down. As for the beach balls and blankets and the like, a more complicated problem set, and it is a continuum, but the effort today has to be to protect the crown jewels of the American economy and make sure that we have the resources that we need to continue to deliver American manufacturing across the world.
Thank you. I yield back.